4:22 local. Thule Air Base still hums like an engine left idling in the dark. The runway lights cut across ice fog, and a single F-35 drifts to a stop with its skin scorched along the left intake. Its arresting hook drags sparks. The tower's warning klaxon keeps looping even though the aircraft is already down. On the main radar console, the trace of an Su-35 fades into static just north of Greenland's boundary line. The air defense operator stares at the ghost signal, hands still hovering above the keyboard. The log reads, 4 seconds to missile release, lock status ambiguous. No one moves. The pilot's voice cracks through the comms. Contact disengaged, no ordnance expended. The words sound like disbelief, not victory. The Arctic wind keeps pushing smoke from the jet's tail across the snow. 3 hours earlier, 1:19 local, NORAD's Polar Watch sector picks up a high-altitude contact coming in from the Barents route. Range 220 miles and closing. Speed Mach 0.85, steady climb to 41,000 feet. Identification transponder silent. The operator tags it with an amber marker. Half curiosity, half routine. Overhead, the polar aurora glows faint green across the sensor dome. The shift supervisor gives a simple order. Scramble 1 out of Thule. Within 90 seconds, the alert bay floods with hydraulic noise as a single F-35A fires its engines to full power. The pilot, Captain Reed, checks cabin pressure at 10 pounds per square inch and toggles radar to search track hybrid mode. He lifts off into minus 36 degrees air, afterburner lighting the tarmac like a furnace. The radar operator watches both dots converge. So far, nothing abnormal. At 1:47, Reed reaches 38,000 feet and gets the first visual. Contrails against dawn glow. Distance, roughly 20 miles. The unidentified aircraft is maintaining heading 310, which points directly across Greenland's northern defense line. He reports contact silver, twin tail, looks like a flanker derivative. The tower confirms the shape matches a Russian Su-35, probable forward deployment from Murmansk. Reed throttles down to Mach 0.9 to shadow. The two tracks run parallel, separated by a legal 5-mile corridor. In the control room, the radar scope shows a clean pattern. No evidence of aggression. The interpretation is simple, a navigational check or a data link drift. Yet the operator's screen blinks irregularly, a small flicker of signal overlap at each sweep. The software interprets it as minor static. It's not. At 1:53, the Russian fighter slides left. Range compresses from 5 miles to 2. The line between them, technically the sovereign air boundary, ceases to exist on radar, both icons merging into one thick return. Reed levels at 41,200 feet, trying to keep distance. Through the canopy, he can see the Su-35's nose angle slightly downward, the glint of frost on its pitot tube. The motion looks like a courtesy bow, a gesture pilots use before peeling away. He assumes the Russian is signaling, no harm. He's wrong. That dip also starts a radar calibration burst that lances directly into Reed's sensors, forcing the F-35's threat computer to register a possible lock. A shrill tone fills the cockpit. Reed swears, toggles countermeasures to standby, and transmits a calm radar spike detected, investigating. Down on the consoles, the analysts see the same spike mirrored. They believe the Russian has just attempted target lock. At 1:55, two radar feeds jam each other. The interference looks like teeth grinding on the screen, two frequencies colliding. In the Thule command room, operators lose altitude resolution for 3 seconds. The computer compensates by predicting vectors, which appeared across at 14.30 north by 65.20 west. That predicted crossing point is inside Greenland territory. A junior officer interprets this as confirmed border penetration and raises the alert level to red. Every missile battery within 300 miles receives a coded wake signal. Up above, the pilots still think it's posturing. The Su-35 flashes its lights twice, standard signal for disengaging. Reed mirrors the flash. The next second, his threat computer screams again. False lock, different frequency. He can't tell which tone is real. The headset fills with white noise, then silence. 1:58. Reed rolls left 90 degrees to break line of sight. The F-35 drops 1,200 feet in 6 seconds, pulling 3 Gs. A vapor cone flashes around the nose as air compresses. The Russian pilot reacts instantly, diving after him. Both jets cut through a layer of cirrus, creating twin spirals of ice crystals visible on satellite infrared. Controllers on the ground interpret the dive as an attack run. They issue pre-authorization for defensive engagement, command code Delta 4. Reed's onboard system automatically shifts the weapons bay to ready position. The bay doors clunk open and close as the hydraulic pressure stabilizes. On Russian sensors, that door movement looks identical to a pre-launch sequence. The Su-35 pilot sees it on his targeting screen and yanks hard to starboard, decoy flares spitting bright orange arcs into the clouds. At 2:01, radar tracking from both sides collapses under chaff plume. Controllers think missiles are flying. A data officer shouts, "Multiple launches detected." Though none exist, the radar is reflecting flare debris and frozen vapor. Thule's watch commander orders the base's secondary interceptor pair to warm engines. In Murmansk, a mirror order goes out to the next Russian patrol group. Both commands act on clean data, missile signatures, infrared bloom, ascending track lines. None of it is real. In the cockpits, both pilots are momentarily blind. Reed checks his altitude, 37,000 feet, and reduces throttle to Mach 0.8 to cool the skin temperature. His helmet display keeps blinking, lock possible. He's not sure if the code is from his own system or mirrored signal bleed from the Russians' radar. Both frequencies are identical within 2 decimal points, 0203. The Su-35 pulls above cloud cover. Its pilot rolls inverted, looking down through the canopy at the American jet below. To him, the F-35 looks steady, nose slightly up, an attitude consistent with attack preparation. He calls ground. Target maneuvering for shot. I will deter. Permission delay, 3 seconds, forces him to decide on his own. He banks into a high G loop to the left, releasing 2 electronic decoys shaped like miniature rockets. On NORAD's sensors, those decoys appear as high-temperature streaks moving south. Reed's threat system screams again. He responds automatically, deploying his own flare burst and counterlock algorithm. The skylights with brief orange sparks, visible even from the Thule weather station 200 miles away. Controllers interpret this glow as active fire. The chain reaction is complete. In the Thule command room, 2:05, the room's temperature has risen from electronics load. 3 radar operators cross-check bearings. The lead analyst insists the contacts are electronic ghosts, but the commander overrules him. Better safe than sorry. Surface-to-air batteries switch from cold to warm. The order goes out. Track both. Hold fire until confirmed engagement. Reed hears snippets of command traffic through the static. He knows that means they're 1 step from weapons free. He climbs back to 39,000 feet to regain altitude advantage. The Russian aircraft disappears on his radar, then reappears 15 miles northeast, climbing fast. The Su-35's pilot is actually trying to disengage, but his maneuver vector looks like an attempt to flank. Both sides now think the other is circling for advantage. The gap between perception and reality narrows to 0. At 2:08, Reed's radar finally stabilizes. The Su-35's heat signature locks again. Range 12 miles, angle 32 degrees off nose. The F-35's computer confirms fire ready status. Reed's thumb hovers above the switch, not pressing it yet. In Thule, a controller notices a second cluster of radar returns appearing behind the Su-35. New contacts at 220 miles. She assumes they are reinforcement fighters. The Su-35 pilot knows what they are, returning patrol from his own side, unrelated. That information never reaches Reed. Command orders him to hold but maintain visual deterrence. Reed interprets that as move closer. He accelerates to Mach 1.1. The sonic boom spreads across the ice field, rattling observation huts. Ground seismographs record it as a small tremor. 2:10. The Russian pilot sees the American fighter closing fast and believes the boom is a missile launch. He descends to 30,000 feet and banks east, back toward international airspace. He transmits in Russian that he is breaking off under duress. The Su-35's radar remains active, however, producing a strong return. To NORAD sensors, it looks like he is still locked. Reed pursues for 8 seconds longer, maintaining distance under 5 miles. His fire control computer begins countdown. 6 seconds to guaranteed hit range. He waits for the release command that never comes. At 4 seconds, the Su-35 finally cuts radar power and vanishes into cloud. Reed hears silence, then only the hiss of wind. He breaks off, banking west. For 2 minutes, nothing exists but the hum of the engine and the frost creeping over his canopy rim. 2:15. Ground command confirms that the new radar contacts, the supposed reinforcement wave, are indeed Russian return patrols from Murmansk, not strike craft. Thule base stands down to amber, but the flight remains in contact with the fading Su-35 Echo until it crosses 200 miles out. Reed's oxygen feed hisses steadily as he turns back toward base, fuel at 22%. His suit temperature is -5. The F-35's data recorder logs 42 separate false locks during the mission. Each one looked authentic. In the command center, technicians replay the event in slow time. The radar signatures show that both aircraft simultaneously attempted calibration bursts every 90 seconds, each mistaking the other's sweep for a weapon cue. The coincidence is perfect. Software incompatibility, not aggression. Nobody knows that yet. At 2:34, the F-35 begins descent. Approach vector 180. Wind cross 15 knots. The pilot lowers gear at 9,000 feet and glides in over sea ice. His landing light picks up thin fog drifting across the strip. The arrestor wire catches the hook with a metallic snap. The jet's left wingtip scrapes snow, throwing a short burst of flame. Base fire crew rushes out with halogen units, foam coating the landing area. Inside the cockpit, Reed's hands shake. He's still holding the stick as if the fight is ongoing. The engine winds down to silence, only the heater fans running. In the tower, the commander watches through glass, counting seconds until the last trace of the Su-35 disappears from radar. 0300. Data analysts begin aligning telemetry from both aircraft recorded via satellite reflection. They note identical signal distortions at timestamp 153, recurring through 209. Each distortion matches a specific radar frequency pattern used by their respective nations for system calibration. The frequencies overlap by 0.002 megahertz. That's enough to create ghost lock indicators on both ends. The operators didn't misread anything. The software simply interpreted calibration as aggression. Yet those 3 digits almost triggered intercontinental command protocols. Every step of the process worked as designed. The system simply believed what it saw. 4 o'clock. In Moscow's northern district, the Russian air defense network resets to standby. The Su-35 pilot files a brief. Encountered aggressive shadow, no missiles fired, returned safely. The tone is neutral, almost bored. At Thule, Reed files a mirror report. Provocation repelled, no ordnance expended. Both sides claim tactical discipline. Satellite imagery of the area shows only contrail remnants and scattered flare residue drifting over the ice. No damage, no debris. But the communications delay between the 2 command structures ensures that for 30 minutes, each believed war had already started. Back at Thule, 4:22, the sun edges above the horizon, throwing long red light across the snowfield. The F-35 sits parked with its canopy open, steam curling from its intakes. Reed stands on the ladder, helmet under his arm, eyes fixed north. Inside the control tower, the logbook entry reads, "Incident complete, 0 casualties, 1 possible incursion." The commander signs it without comment. Data officers continue dissecting the radar feed, identifying each false tone and lag error. The phrase software misalignment appears in every margin. One analyst mutters that a quarter-second slower reaction on either side would have meant 2 detonations over the pole. No one disagrees. The Arctic wind erases the footprints on the tarmac within minutes. By dawn, satellite networks resume normal scan intervals. Civilian air traffic between Reykjavik and Anchorage is cleared again. Yet across every command console from Washington to Moscow, alert thresholds remain elevated by a single increment. Automatic systems now treat similar frequency overlaps as hostile until proven otherwise. The effect ripples through the chain. More alerts, faster scrambles, thinner margins. The pilots who flew that night become data points in a future exercise labeled Greenland event. Both are credited with restraint. Both triggered the exact same computer error that nearly erased restraint from the equation. At 6 o'clock local, the Arctic sky looks calm again. The aurora stretches faint green across the horizon where the 2 fighters once crossed. Thul's radar sweeps its silent arc every 6 seconds, watching for ghosts. Nothing appears. Yet the memory remains in the system's logs. 42 false locks, 28 countermeasures, 6 seconds from physics taking command. The math stays on file, waiting for the next misalignment.